I'm Mark with the Anatomy Wellness, and today I'm going to teach you how to do a half kneeling hamstring stretch. So let's talk about the half kneeling hamstring stretch. Why do we want to do it? What are we working on? And how do we do it? So let's start with talking about your hamstrings. What are your hamstrings? Your hamstrings are these muscles on the underside of your upper leg. Okay, so you got your thigh here. Your hamstrings are the big kind of meaty muscles on the other opposite side of your thigh, right on the underside here, okay? What do? They help with what we call knee flexion, okay? Knee flexion, if you watch my knee here, is just simply bending your knee. It's a fancy name or a fancy way to describe the motion of bending your knee, okay? Why do we want to work on stretching out our hamstrings? Well, a lot of us have tight hamstrings, and why is that? It's because we sit a lot. So if you see how I'm seated here, and this is just like if you're sitting at a desk or sitting in your car or on your couch or whatever. See how my knees are bent? That means that my hamstrings are in a position that is shortened. The actual length of the muscle is shortened, okay? And so when we sit a lot, especially for long periods of time, our muscles, our hamstring muscles, get used to being in that shortened state. So when we go to stand back up and our legs go straight, well, they've been sitting in that bent position and they're shortened. They don't want to elongate back out so we can get our legs straight. They like to stay nice and tight, nice and cinched up, okay? Well, that can lead to all sorts of issues, right? That can lead to hamstring injuries, especially for athletes. We see a lot of athletes here that come in with hamstring strains, all that stuff. And most times it's related to just having hamstring tightness. So when you go out and you run or jump or do whatever, and you're using your hamstrings, if they're already starting off really tight, they're at greater risk for injury and for strain, right? It's just like a rubber band. If I constantly, have that rubber band under tension, it's more likely to break, right? So we want to loosen those back up, get those back to functioning properly, right? And they tend to get tight with our calf muscles as well. That both of those kind of run together, which is no fun. You don't want to get tight calf muscles. And they also kind of happen along with getting tight hip flexors, again, because we're seated and we're in that shortened state of the muscle itself. So all those things kind of tighten up all together. That can limit our mobility, and especially in our legs, we want our legs mobile, right? That's how we get around. We're walking around. So we want those to be functioning properly, have the proper mobility that we need to be able to go out and do all the fun things that we want to do in life. So that's why it's good to stretch these out, and that's why a lot of us need to, because we're sitting down so much in modern society. So how exactly do you do this stretch? So again, there's a lot of different ways to stretch your hamstring. You probably know of some actually, but to me, this technique I'm going to teach you is one of the most effective. It's a little bit more aggressive or intense if you want to think of it that way, but most people I find can do this no problem, and it gets them to actually stretch the hamstring, where I think a lot of people on other techniques can kind of cheat themselves through it, but this one's hard to cheat your way through it. This one really focuses on that hamstring and gives you a good stretch. So this is why I like to teach the half kneeling technique. So how do we do it? Well, you're going to be over here on the floor. And I will say for this one, it would be good to have some kind of yoga mat, or at least do this stretch on the carpet. It's just tough to do this stretch on like a hardwood floor or like any just kind of hard surface, because you are going to have one knee down on the ground. And if you're putting your body weight on your knee onto a hard surface, that can be pretty uncomfortable. So try and find some kind of a padding or soft carpet or something like that you can have your one knee on, so it's not quite so uncomfortable. But you can see here I do have a yoga mat we can use, and yoga mats are always good to use for stretching like this. So you're going to be down here on the ground, and the way we're going to do this, I'm just going to show you how to do it on one side, but you'll want to repeat the same technique on the other side so you can stretch out both sides, okay? I like to start off in what we call a half kneeling position, or some people think of this as like a lunge. Either way you think of it, it's the same thing. You have one leg down, kind of back behind you, your other leg up in front of you, kind of at that 90-degree angle bend, okay? And then your torso is going to stay nice and upright. You're not hunched forward, you're not extended back, okay? Especially don't extend back, that'll pinch on your back. We don't want that, okay? But this is just your starting position. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your front leg, okay, and you're actually going to get that leg to go straight. So you're going to straighten that leg out. I put my heel down into the ground and have my toes point straight up towards the ceiling, just like this, okay? So what's that? What is that doing? That's putting my leg into knee extension, right? which is already going to start putting a stretch on my hamstrings. Okay, so some people get into this position and they already feel the stretch. If that's the case, that's fine. Then just hold that there for 30 seconds and then just bend your knee to give yourself a little bit of a break and do that 2 or 3 times, okay? If not, if you want a little bit more of a stretch, you're not quite feeling it yet, all you're gonna do now is make sure your chest and your torso is pointing straight forward so you're not twisted to one side or whatever. And then all you're gonna do is you're gonna keep this leg straight. So I like to put a hand just on the top of my knee to help with that. I'm not jamming my knee down, but just helping kind of remind myself to keep that leg straight. And then I'm gonna bend at the waist, and I'm gonna keep my spine straight as I do this. I'm gonna bend at the waist and just lean out over the top of this leg, okay? And as I lean out over the top of it, the more I lean out, the more of a stretch I'm gonna feel on my hamstrings, okay? So once I get to the position where I feel the discomfort of the stretch but no pain, right? I'm just gonna hold it there for 30 seconds. You can even bring your other hand down over the top if you'd like. Hold it for at least 30 seconds. Come back up. Give myself a little bit of a break, okay? I like to alternate between sides, but you can do like 3 in a row on the one side and switch, do 3 in a row on the other side, okay? But again, you're here, legs straight. You're bending at the waist, again, keeping a straight spine. So you're not collapsing like this, but you're keeping a straight spine and just hinging at the waist and kind of laying out over the top of that lower leg, okay? Hold for 30 seconds, come back up, give yourself a break. One note on this, again, make sure torso is not twisting and turning, but it can be kind of tough to keep your balance sometimes, so sometimes you'll see people wobbling. You may have seen me wobble a couple times even just doing this. If that's the case, if you're having a hard time keeping your balance, grab an exercise ball or even like a stool or a chair, put it on the side of the leg that's down behind you, and just kind of use it as a support, okay? And then you can just kind of keep a hand on there, kind of helps you so you're not wobbling around all over the place. You can really just focus in on the stretch. And then the last reminder, of course, is just make sure you're breathing through the stretch. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You don't have to do forced breathing, just normal, relaxed breathing. That'll help the body calm down, help those muscles to stretch out. But yeah, hold for 30 seconds, 2 or 3 times on each side. Do that once or twice a day. I like to do this at the end of the day after I've kind of gotten tight again. It's a good lunch break stretch to do, but just kind of whenever you can fit it in is a great thing to do. And that's how you do the half kneeling hamstring stretch.